what I'm doing is legal. This is why I believe I'll receive justice in the higher court.
Hit more to right center than the left. Oh, it is good! He did it! He did it!
It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from. If you have dreams and you have goals, and that's all that really matters.
But there's only one Usain Bolt.
I owe, a lot to Charlie.
The freedom of expression that the entire world could see.
When you black, it's not a movement. It's a lifestyle. This is who we are.
Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport. It showcases the fastest drivers on the planet in the most advanced cars ever built. And it does so with unmatched style, taking in the world's most glamorous locations and leaning into its reputation for luxury. In the history of this orgy of elitism, there's only been one black competitor. And he just happens to be the most successful racing driver of all time.
Lewis Hamilton is exceptional. He's established, he deserves everything he's got and much more.
For me, Lewis Hamilton is the impersonalization of hunger.
Behind the wheel, he's got a sublime talent and great natural talent.
I believe that is the Lewis the best of all the racing drivers altogether in history.
Just drive faster. Simple.
Nobody has won more Formula One drivers' championships than Lewis Hamilton. And nobody has won more F1 Grand Prix than the Englishman. He was the youngest champion in history when he celebrated his maiden title in 2008. And the 12-year span between first and last triumphs is the longest in the sport. By any measure, Hamilton is a legendary figure.
Records is not something I've ever really focused on. I just go out there and try and always be my best, but it's kind of neat.
Born near London in 1985, Hamilton quickly immersed himself in motorsport. He was 7 when he began racing karts, and just 10 when he became the youngest driver to win the British Cadet Karting Championship. By the ripe old age of 13, he was enrolled in the prestigious McLaren Driver Development Program, a scheme that included an option of a future Formula One seat.
If I didn't have go-karting, I wouldn't be able to drive like I do today. So the wheel-to-wheel racing that you have, because they race so closely in karts, really enables you to figure out how to outsmart the guy in front of you, brake in zones, and all these different technical skills that you learn. You learn them all from go-karting.
Hamilton's rise was unstoppable. He transitioned seamlessly from karts to cars, rising through the ranks in Formula 3, then winning the GP2 championship at the first attempt. It came as little surprise when McLaren opened the door to Formula One in 2007. It was lights out for the most impactful career in the sport's history.
Probably when I was younger, subconsciously there were goals. The first step was just getting to Formula One, and then the next was, okay, I'm here, I would love to get there, and then, I reached that point, and then it's what was next.
Hamilton finished on the podium in his debut race, then went on to smash all sorts of records in his rookie season, finishing runner-up in the World Championship. Nobody was shocked when he went one place better the following year, although he left it until the last lap of the final race of the season to secure his maiden crown. But for all his progression and early success with McLaren, it was when Hamilton moved to Mercedes in 2013 that his career went into overdrive. At a stroke, he found himself in a car with a huge advantage over the rest of the grid, and he dominated mercilessly, winning 6 titles in 8 seasons. On the all-time standings, he accelerated past legends like Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and Juan Manuel Fangio. Only the career record of Ferrari great Michael Schumacher remains comparable. But while Hamilton's ascendancy appears serene, his success camouflaged bullying and racism, shaping the tyro into the leader he would become.
He's a very different personality to the rest of the field. He's unique in that respect. I think he's, you know, he's a superstar, you know, globally, and I think he brings another audience to Formula One. I think it's great to have characters, you know, in the sport, and he is, you know, one of the sporting greats.
It's not hard to identify why Lewis Hamilton might come across differently to other drivers in the F1 paddock. To begin with, he wasn't born into wealth. His father, Anthony Hamilton, worked multiple jobs to enable his son to pursue an expensive hobby.
Sport has been such a great thing for me in my life, so I know that encouraging young kids and in these different disadvantaged communities, it really does help. You know, it's such a great way of life, and it's such a great way of communicating them, raising kids, and really giving them a future.
Hamilton was also bullied at an early age. Formative experiences that built a competitor of formidable resilience.
I was bullied at school. I was the little kid, and bullied on by the bigger kids. So I was very, very much within my cocoon, or whatever you want to say, you know, in my own space. It's very quiet. But when I get in the car, I was able to put out my elbows and stand up for myself. And then eventually I got confidence. I was able to help, you know, stand up for others that were getting bullied at school. Because I went to karate and I got black belt, and I could whoop someone's butt, which was amazing.
And then, of course, there's Hamilton's skin color, the factor that makes him unique amongst F1 drivers, informs the challenges of his upbringing, and shapes the way he has responded to crucial moments in his career.
I've actually grown up in a sport that has very little to no diversity. And I think it's an issue that we're continually facing. I think it's all of our responsibility to use our platform for that, for really pushing for gender equality, for inclusivity, and for really just making sure that we are engaging and really trying to represent what the world is, where the world is today.
The more comfortable Hamilton became in his seat, the more he expressed his identity, celebrating black music, culture, and especially fashion. He did this in the rarefied air of an F1 racer, dating a pop star, attending the most exclusive parties, and walking the catwalk with Naomi Campbell.
Fashion is something that I have to say when I was younger, I was quite oblivious to it, really. I think in the past I probably never felt comfortable in what I was wearing, and never knew what I was wearing. Is where now I'm very, very much involved in my look, and you know, especially as you're in front of cameras all the time, and even when I'm in my race suit, I want to make sure that my suit looks classy. I want to make sure it looks good on me, you know. And so, yeah, I definitely say as I've grown older, it's something I focus on a lot more.
As Hamilton's status grew beyond the confines of motorsport, his sense of identity crystallized. and he became more outspoken on issues of inequality and diversity.
We know that Lewis is always a strong supporter of any minorities. And to be honest, I have learned a lot from him as well. He has asked me the question once, have you ever had the active thought that you're white? And I said, no, actually, I've never thought about it. And he said, well, you know, I need to think about it every day because I'm being made aware that I am.
Hamilton's advocacy garnered global attention in 2020 when he led the grid in support of the Black Lives Matter protest. A move which included Mercedes, Hamilton's team, racing in an all-black livery. And he wasn't afraid to call out rivals for their inaction. I see those of you who are staying silent. Some of you are the biggest stars, yet you stay silent in the midst of injustice, he said.
I think Lewis is a real leader in many different aspects. But obviously in our sport, in Formula One, he's the main one. And he's also talking probably about something he lives. And growing up, I think he faced these kind of challenges. And we need guys like him in our sport, especially with such an exposure and globally and worldwide known. I think his voice for sure is really powerful, and that's great.
It's very difficult for us to comprehend how difficult it is, and therefore I'm happy and supportive that he has come out vocal. He's one of the ambassadors of this sport, and I think it's good.
Already established as a talented sportsman and at ease personifying the F1 high life, Hamilton found his voice.
The inaugural Laureus Athlete Advocate of the Year is Lewis Hamilton.
This past year has been incredibly difficult for so many, but it has also been heartening to see the power of our collective voices spark new conversations and change. The impact of each and every one of you who have stood up is so inspiring. So I want to thank you. Please keep fighting and keep shining your light. The global rising to address the long-standing issue of systemic racism and inequality in our society has been monumental, but we must continue to fight. We must all see ourselves as responsible for making positive change in our world and hold ourselves accountable so that the promises of last year turn into action.
Hamilton's action included the launch of a commission aimed at increasing black representation in motorsport. Writing, institutional barriers that have kept F1 highly exclusive persist.
I'm in a sport which is, white dominated, and there's not very little diversity here, for example, and with everything that happened in the States, it really brought up a lot of emotions for me, because a lot of people think that it's only happening in the States, but yes, there's the police brutality in the States, but systemic racism is across the world.
That was buttressed by the owners of Formula One dedicating $1 million to promote a pathway for drivers from diverse backgrounds. And you don't have to look far for examples of why such action matters in motorsport. As recently as 2021, Hamilton was racially abused online after a Grand Prix victory.
Please try and think of how you can better yourselves, be better as you individually and together with the guys that you're working next to, because that's what I'm trying to think of.
Hamilton's accomplishments on and off the track have been recognized outside of motorsport. He was knighted by the Queen in December 2020. The same year he won the Laureus Sportsman of the Year and BBC Sports Personality of the Year awards. Now, as a senior statesman within Formula One, Lewis Hamilton is in a position to express himself to the fullest, and lead change from within. He might have been the first black driver to celebrate a checkered flag, but he's determined to ensure he won't be the last.
People right now are like, what's motivating you? I'm like, well, I've got a pretty big voice within this industry, and I could be a real force for change. So that's kind of an inspiring role, and that's really what I'm pushing towards.
In the beginning, there was Venus. 7 Grand Slam singles titles, 16 more in doubles, as well as 5 Olympic medals, 4 of them gold. In a career spanning over a quarter of a century, nobody has appeared in more Grand Slam draws. Not bad for a competitor that isn't even the best tennis player in her family. While sister Serena changed the game, it was Venus who first broke the mold.
She was just down pounding balls and intense concentration, not your typical 7-year-old that has to do something for 5 minutes and then needs a break or wants to go home and play.
She turned professional in 1994, aged just 14. 3 years later, unseeded, she reached the U.S. Open final at the first attempt.
It's nice when you first come on tour because you think less.
Tall and armed with a wicked serve, superb footwork, and a strong all-court technique, Venus was ideally suited to the power game that would come to define women's tennis at the turn of the millennium. Between the Wimbledons of 2000 and 2003, she reached 9 of 13 Grand Slam finals, winning 4. During this career peak, in February 2002, Venus became the first African-American woman to be ranked #1 in the world. But soon the baton would be passed to her younger sibling. Serena defeated Venus in the next 3 Grand Slam finals, usurping her sister at the top of the rankings and setting in motion an era of unprecedented achievement in women's sport. Venus and Serena were the product of the ambition of their father, Richard, who was determined to equip his daughters with the skills to extricate themselves from the Los Angeles suburb of Compton. He succeeded.
To see where we come from out of the worst ghetto, to be here at the finest club in the world, it's just phenomenal.
In 2000, the Williams sisters met at Wimbledon for the first time. It was the semifinals, and Venus defeated Serena for the 4th time in 5 professional encounters. Father Richard couldn't watch.
I felt that it's like having 2 people in an arena like the Roman Empire used to do, and one person had a right to die and one had a right to live. And the one that won had the right to live. And that's what this reminded me of, and I wouldn't be a part of it.
After these heady days early in her career, Venus struggled to remain at the very summit of tennis as a succession of injuries and illness forced her to watch on as Serena took all before her. That's not to say there were no high points, like the 2005 Wimbledon final against Lindsay Davenport, the longest in the competition's history, and only the second to that point to feature a champion that had saved a match point against her. And the 5 appearances at the Olympic Games as part of Team USA, which established the standard for leading players at a time when the tours were still adjusting to life with the games on the schedule.
In terms of the sort of hierarchy of important events in tennis specifically, where do you place the Olympics?
Always at the top. Yeah.
Above Grand Slam tournaments, you mean?
Yeah.
Or at the same level as?
For me personally, yes. The proudest moment for me when they do the on-court announcements are the Olympic results. For me, that feels legitimate.
But Venus's life and career would not be defined by just trophies and medals.
Wilt Chamberlain could be the most dominant single force in team sports history. In 1962, the Big Dipper became the only player to score 100 points in an NBA game, and that season averaged 50 points and 26 rebounds. They're the kind of stats that will surely never be matched, and his career numbers of 30 points and 23 boards are equally astonishing. And though the Boston Celtics, led by the defensive master Bill Russell, were almost unbeatable, Chamberlain did manage 2 NBA titles with the Philadelphia 76ers and LA Lakers. There's never been anyone quite like Wilt Chamberlain.
I've become a better human being, you know, through tennis. Actually, I'm not lying, I have. I think you learn so much if you allow it to, and that can spread through your whole life. And I think you always learn that you can achieve and do and push yourself even further than what you ever thought you could.
In 2005, half the Grand Slams still didn't offer equal prize money for men and women. Over 30 years after Billie Jean King began the campaign for parity, Wimbledon and the French Open were dragging their heels. It was time for Venus to step up to the plate. Her efforts were rebuffed initially, but an essay in the Times of London in 2006 provoked a reaction from the British government, and Wimbledon caved. Roland Garros was left with no choice. Venus was credited as the catalyst for the generational change. Away from tennis, Venus established an interior design business, specialized in sleep solutions, and along with sister Serena, became a minority owner of the Miami Dolphins NFL franchise. She spread her wings in the world of fashion, creating the sportswear brand 11 and participating in numerous collaborations with leading designers. Of course, Serena was never far behind, keeping things competitive.
We give each other confidence. So if your sister likes it, then you know it's going to be okay. Your sister always tells you the truth.
Tennis pioneer, fashion maven, campaigner for equality, Venus Williams has packed plenty into a lifetime.
I'm very happy that I've been able to live my dream. I'm happy that I've hopefully been able to represent myself in a way that is upbuilding and unembarrassing, all those things, and that I don't really need more than that.
And through it all, she has been received as warmly as any player on the circuit. Even longtime rivals are pleased to have her around.
Venus, it's been a pleasure to have you here, not just tonight, but it's been an absolute honor to play against you for the last 15, 17 years. You've been an inspiration for our sport. Thanks for everything.
And at the heart of that inspiration is a fierce competitor. A sporting superstar who stands alone, no matter who she shared her childhood bedroom with.
Do you feel like you're able, now that you're older and more mature, that you're able to enjoy tennis more in the process of pro tennis?
No.
You've always enjoyed it?
I just want to win. It's a process, older, younger, I don't care. All of it is about winning at the end of the day.